to take it personal. I think the first time I experienced my first agent leaving me after investing so much time in them, it crushed me. But then the philosophy of me today, you tomorrow, I'm not still at the first job I had back in Philadelphia working on Delaware Avenue. No, we're not there anymore. And so people have stages and they can move forward. And this is what I do know. If I have fulfilled my obligation to them by respecting them, giving them stable employment, and investing in them, the outcome is okay with me because I just don't know, Devin, what's happening in their personal lives. There could be something that's influencing their decision that they're not telling me about.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Founder. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups in the 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Richard Blaine. And Richard is going to talk a little bit about how he started what is a call center and how he got to where he's at today and how that business got founded and going. Also, just as a quick reminder to the audience, Richard was also on our sister podcast, both The Inventive Journey, where you can find out about his full journey, as well as The Inventive Expert, where you can learn a lot of expertise and gain a lot of knowledge from Richard. So with that much as introduction, welcome on the podcast, Richard.
So great to be here, Devin. Very excited to share ideas with you and your amazing audience.
I'm excited to have you on, and I look forward to a great conversation. So with that much as maybe as a quick introduction, let's start out maybe before we dive into the full founding of the business. Why don't you give everybody just a 10-second snippet as what is the business that we're going to be talking about?
Costa Rica's call center. We're a nearshore bilingual dedicated call center right here in Central America in Costa Rica. Our agents are college educated. They have amazing skill sets. And once again, Costa Rica is able to pack a punch in regards to the entire BPO industry in the world.
Awesome. That was definitely a great introduction, and looking forward to hearing even more. So with that much now as an intro, we talked a little bit before about kind of how you got started. You initially got started working, I think, at a friend's call center for about 4 years before deciding to go out on your own. But yeah, tell us a little bit about how you got this business going and how you founded it.
Some of the best experience you have is hands-on. And just briefly, I was at my friend's center, not C-level, but I was with the agents in the cubicle, seeing the good, the bad, and the happy and the sad. And when you're learning retention, customer support, affiliate management, onboarding, sales, and training, it literally was my graduate school. So taking that next step to start my own business, I, in my own heart, felt comfortable enough because not only the preparation, but the knowledge. And then again, call centers are exceptionally lucrative. So I knew that if I was able to anchor in and start building a business, the chances of a rate of return was incredible. And so I decided to take it. And I tell you what, it's a very social industry. There's a lot of synergy there. People feed off of energies. And besides having the server room and all the infrastructure and equipment, I always believe that a special sauce is empathy, dignity, knowing someone's name, and really building an environment where instead of people are closed, they can start contributing and opening up a little bit more and really shedding some skin, Devin, as they would say, and start growing within their own marketability.
No, makes perfect sense. Now, maybe this is a kind of a quick follow-up to our discussion. So you went to work for a friend at a call center for about 4 years. Yes. Now, at the end of that 4 years, you obviously decided to go out on your own, which leads to the business that you founded. But what made you decide to, branch out from your friend's call center, decide to build something on your own and kind of get the current business going?
It's a great question. Prior to starting my company at 35, in between that period, I was actually working with a family real estate business in the United States, doing prospecting and appointment setting phone calls for my brother, who was a broker in Arizona. And I also had my real estate license as well. But I had a couple agents working with me out of my house, making some phone calls. And once the market died, it was almost by default. that I was pushed into starting my center in 2007 is when the website went live and I landed my first account February of 2008. So you almost are pushed into it. And also I was in my 30s and I really wanted to see my earnings potential because the clock was ticking. And I had mentioned this in the other podcast, and I think it's important to say it today, that there are certain stages of the life when you are ready. You might be physically strong, but you might not have it there mentally. And so it took me into my mid 30s, Deb, and I'll be honest with you, counsel. I needed some impulse control. I needed some additional maturity. And after working in my family real estate company, I was able to have enough capital to where I could take off a couple of years and literally build this business without any sort of pressures. And so it was timing. It was the moment. That's when the stars were aligned. And then naturally, I knew that I set myself up to give me the luxury of time to see what I could do to start this business. So I didn't feel that sort of pressure in the first couple of weeks to pay my lights. I knew my lights were going to be paid for 24 months.
Makes perfect sense. So, you kind of hit that point where you're saying, okay, timing's right, going to do my own call center. And you mentioned you kind of put up the website. Now, website in and of itself, there are a lot of websites out there, and it's just having a website's not going to drive the traffic. So now, how did you, as you got started, having experience working in your friend's call center, and then deciding to go out on your own, how did you take the idea of, okay, I'm going to branch out to, I'm going there to actually get it going? What was kind of that process or those steps to actually get the business founded or set up?
And that's excellent because I always believe that the best form of search engine optimization is contribution. And so what I did was I would write not articles, but I was really serving you full slices of pizza to test my pie, not just to entice you to call me and then spend an hour explaining this stuff. So I was writing about my experience and how to set up an account and what we do to prospect. And so when people would read my material, it would assist me prior to a phone call. And also I was doing an enormous amount of contribution online in regards to, and this is back in 2007. So it was before your Instagram and Facebook was very young. So there was a lot of online forums and blogs and other areas in which you could contribute. And so I was very active there. And a lot of it was sending me through hyperlinks, a lot of very good organic traffic throughout different parts of the world. So just on a 101 basis, that was assisting me in growing my page ranking and my credibility in regards to nearshore call centers within Costa Rica. And so after a period of time, I just put so much social influence out there. I was capturing so much traffic, it pushed me to the top. So then the phone calls started coming in. And this was very interesting because when you start a business, you have all this enthusiasm, but little bit of knowledge as a business owner. And now I got so much knowledge, I have to shove in the times to throw in the fun stories and the experience. And so in the beginning, it was way too much money to build out a 300 seat center. Let's be very realistic. And so what I did was I was renting space at a blended, which is a shared turnkey center, almost like in a glorified internet cafe. There wasn't really privacy, but there was reliability in regards to internet redundancy, a generator, IT support. It just wasn't my own space. I had roommates. And so I could pay per station my taxes and make a margin. And it was a beautiful way for me to scale or reduce staff without any sort of additional pressures. But that a la carte was not cost effective for me after, let's say, 24 agents, you're paying top choice. So I then decided after a couple of years and having stable clients to make that move, I rented out space and I built out literally 150 stations, bought the equipment, did the server room, the shebang. And here's the beauty of certain products you can have to build a business. Now, I suggest that people be very cautious of what you buy secondhand. I'm not going to buy secondhand underwear, but the one thing I will buy are secondhand computers and furniture that when you import them have an 80% tax on it. So could you imagine something that's just turnkey, ready to go without even a scratch on it? And so when you look around, you were able to pick things up for pennies on the dollar. So for me, starting a company, instead of having to buy something out of the box, brand new, that's so specific, there were so many centers that were coming and going that enabled me to ramp up extremely cost effectively. And so that helped me through stages of buying 10 computers here, 10 seats, and growing that way. And so I was able to pace it, Devin. So I could always have a reserve for a couple months in case there's a setback and moving ahead, and also delegating by bringing in an IT support, human resources, attorneys, and accountants. It allowed me to follow the rules here to save as much money as I could and
No,
also to focus on areas of my business.
and one of the things that I think, or we chatted about a little bit before, is you started out fairly small, and then you would take the money that you were earning and you reinvest it, and you did
Yes.
everything through cash and did all the scaling, didn't take on investors. So kind of and that's I certainly agree with you, and that's how I've done a lot of my businesses. But I think it goes against the grain in the sense that the conventional wisdom is, you start a business, you go get a loan, you leverage it as much as you can. You try and get investors so that you're using someone else's money. And I disagree with that because I think it has a lot of, drawbacks to it. But what made you kind of take that path of just, hey, we'll start out small, we'll reinvest, we'll do everything in cash and otherwise build it out? And how did that work out for you?
From the advice of my late, incredible, beautiful grandmother. Grandma Shirley used to tell me back in the day, Richard, if you can't pay for it in cash, you just don't do it. And I learned that I'd rather own the piece of dirt than have to give the bank back my building. And it just was something for me personally where I could sleep at night. Is it the best advice? Maybe not. But then also let's think about it this way, my friend. My call center is pretty much sight unseen unless clients visit me. If I needed a showroom to show off my Ferraris, but there was a certain area where clients needed to be wined and dined, and there was a certain sort of aesthetics that I needed, fine. But this is really just a huge environment of cubicles where as long as you have natural light, fresh air, and physiologically that people can do the work, you do certain things. And so I didn't need the penthouse apartment. But then again, I did do a couple things differently. I was very much influenced by the show Remington Steele back in the 80s. So one of the things I wanted was a company limousine. So I did splurge. I did restore a 1984 300D Mercedes limousine to pick up clients at the airport. And in addition to that, I did build out a very amazing pinball game room downstairs for people. And so that's the difference that I wanted to do. I wanted to make it more hands-on, authentic, sincere, really just being that leader and coach that we grew up with, Devin, that perfect for me, an ice hockey coach, baseball coach, mentor, teacher, principal. I'm from Philadelphia. I knew that by giving them the Rocky mentality, by showing up to work dressed, on time and at the ready, I might be able to earn their respect being a guest in their country. And so I just didn't want to overextend myself with those bells and whistles because I believed it wouldn't have made a difference here. Someone would rather sit under a tree and have a sandwich with me than go to the steakhouse, spend $100. And so I was just trying to gauge the sort of return and the sort of efforts that I was given.
No, I think that definitely makes perfect sense, and probably a little bit peas in the same pot. I think the legal industry is you know has a overabundance of people that feel like they have to have a huge high-rise building and the right in the middle of downtown and in the center. And to your point, maybe if you're having a lot of high-priced clients that have those expectations and that's what you need, then you set it up that way. But I think there's a lot like our law firm where we work with people primarily remotely, where we have occasionally people come in the office, still set up nice, and you can still sit down with us. But we didn't need to invest in a overabundance of office space in downtown and high rises because that's not how we set up the business. And so I think that that's a great takeaway from people is look to see whether what you're investing in actually makes sense and whether it's impactful to the business. If it does, then invest in it, and where the things don't, then don't just do it because it makes you feel better. So now, as you kind of got the business, up and going, I know that we talked a little bit again before that you started having to figure out, additional things, how to deal with attrition. You had to deal with, bringing on additional teammates and delegating and all those things. So, kind of, how did it go from starting out with maybe probably a core small business, building it, and what are those kind of lessons that you learned?
Way over my head. When I was cutting it close to be able to get my accounting done to hit the payroll because you're up to 36 seats, I realized I needed someone to help me. I got 15 phone calls I got to return and I got training classes. So it's not like it wasn't a priority, but there are people that do enjoy accounting when to me it seems like a chore. But I knew that I was in over my head because I was growing so fast. And I just didn't want to make that sort of financial or legal mistake. So I had to bring in the right people. Are you reducing your profit margin? In my opinion, you're actually making money because you're retaining a client instead of losing somebody. So it's almost like a very good insurance policy. And these people could be multitasked as well. They just don't have to crunch numbers for you. They can sit in on meetings and give you a certain perspective in regards to a client or how we would be writing a script or doing quality assurance. And it's amazing to me, people from departments that have nothing to do with another department might have a contribution. And that's what's wonderful about things like that. But for me, once again, being here, not knowing the labor laws, it was imperative that I followed the rules because I'm not just paranoid on things like that. I just wasn't raised like that. I really just wanted to pay my taxes, do the right thing, and sustain my business because not saying you can't do it. And there's a lot of companies that pay under the table or they don't declare their tips at a restaurant, or some guy might cut your lawn, you give him 30 bucks. That's what you do. Here, I didn't want to do that. Not like I didn't want someone to make as much money as they could. But once again, if you have a disgruntled employee and he goes downtown and talks to the Ministerio del Trabajo, you could get in a lot of trouble. And for me, it just wasn't worth it. If I want to take care of someone, buying pizza, but do everything by the book. So you can tell the same story every time. You can live with yourself, look at yourself in the mirror, and you don't have to look over your shoulder, counsel, or I don't have to twist words with you to try to assist me in court to get me out of trouble. That's not things we do here. And it's a very small country, and reputation gets around fast if someone does or does not pay a commission or is not paying taxes. And so for me, initially, I just didn't want any surprises for my clients.
No, makes perfect sense, and sounds like it was, and I'd or circle back to what you said initially, which is, there are things that probably is enough time, money, and effort if you wanted to invest in the gaining the skills. There are things that you could probably come up to speed with on just about anything. But one, just because you know how to do it doesn't mean you enjoy it, and two, does it make sense to actually put all that time, money, and effort versus finding someone that does enjoy it and is already up to speed, especially when you're growing and you're having a lot of areas where you could devote your time. So it sounds like it was a great strategy to bring on those people, and it also maintains a good reputation and has a lot of those other side effects. So now as you're, kind of founding it, you're growing it, you're bringing on the staff, and otherwise, doing a bit or improving the business. I touched on it a bit before, but one of the things that you deal with call centers is attrition. In other words, as you grow, typically, at least in my mind, and the very or limited amount of understanding I have with call centers is you have, it's a lot of times it's staffed by people that are between jobs, or they're looking for a shorter term income, or they are, wanting to, or, they may not be as highly motivated. And I'm not saying that that's by any means all the industry, but as you have a larger turnover in that industry because you're dealing with a lot of times people that aren't happy when they call you or when you call them. So going all those kind of things with my very limited knowledge, and first of all, you can correct whatever my misunderstandings are. But how did you start to deal with attrition as you got bigger and you had that bigger turnover?
Let's look at attrition a couple different ways, Devin. In Costa Rica, call centers pay more than most vocations. So I have people here with law and medical degrees. So if you're exceptionally talented and marketable, you can earn a killing. So I really don't see it as more as part-time or transitional jobs. It could be for someone that might study something else, and once they graduate, they leave the centers. But for the most part, people are in here for sometimes a decade. Now, there's natural attrition, not just in call centers, but for any industry. Amazon is in Costa Rica, so imagine me competing against those big boys. So I'll lose people because of a scheduling conflict. Maybe their boyfriend or girlfriend works there, could be closer to their home, and it might be more lucrative. They could be earning more money, of course. But the one thing that does not happen here, Devin, is a walk of shame. I'm not going to make you cry on a Monday, and embarrass you in front of all your friends. You mentioned earlier about the investment in people and believing in people. The last thing you and our egos are fine. We don't need to fire somebody to make ourselves feel better. But the one thing that disappoints me is the fact that if you and I start strong, we can end strong, and I'm okay with that. And a lot of people do not give a 2 weeks notice. So it makes me have to give a phone call to a client, let them know what's happening, have a solution.
Mm.
But the benefit of that is that it solidifies a relationship with a client when you can get through tough times. But I've seen people when they come in, they give you the bells and the whistles, you hire them, they're phenomenal, and then next thing you know, you don't hear from them anymore. And that's the only thing that disappoints me. It's okay, Devin. We walked well together. Just look in my eyes, shake my hand, and
Mm.
wish me well, as I would be doing for you.
No, and I think that that's good. And sometimes I think it's harder said than done. Said than done. Sometimes, if the employee just doesn't show up, then at least on letting them go, it makes it easy. Sometimes it is. Sometimes I think it takes a maturity level that you have to be self-realistic. That with a business, people come and go, they leave. They may not like, or it may not be the right position for them. Life may
Right.
change, and not to take it personally that they're leaving the business, but to say, hey, wish you the best, leave your, send you on your way, and where hopefully it all works out for you. And I think that that's a great way, and it also I think makes it a much more or better environment rather than hey, everybody knows that that person left and we're all angry and mad, and now you hear all the people the people that are talking bad about them. And I think that that's your approach is a much better one. So I think that's great.
I have some examples though. We believe in right bus, right seat. And prior to somebody leaving, there is a preventative measure there. They will come to me and say, Devin, I love working here, but this campaign is not a good fit for me. I'm not enjoying it. May I potentially look into B, C, and D that you have here? And if someone's earned their stripes, they do show up to work, pen at the ready and doing a great job, but you really just don't want to play right field. Of course, I'm going to look to other areas where you'll be more fulfilled and stay with me longer. There's never a good forced fit. So I agree with that as well.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. So I think that's definitely a great takeaway. And I think that finding that sometimes maybe a great employee but not the right fit, and looking to see if there's another position or another opportunity for them is better or much better than the same. You don't like it, see you later type of a thing. So I think that's awesome. So now, as we've kind of talked to now the full founding of the business and kind of heard that story, kind of catch us up. Where's the business at today? You've put in all this time and effort. You've started since I think you said 2007. So you're coming up on what 15, 16 years, and that's a pretty good
15,
time to
yeah.
be in the industry. So kind of where's the business at today? Is it steady state? Is it continuing to grow? Is it shrinking with the shrinking economy, or kind of how's it going?
A little bit of everything. You just gave a smorgasbord and I guess case by case basis. But the biggest change that I've seen is on site to work from home. Now, virtual back in the day used to be when people would outsource offshore to India and the Philippines and had to work that way. But today, a lot of the people are expecting the agents to be either hybrid or completely working from home. And some of the most talented agents are asking for that. And it's a seller's market. They have the leverage. If they can show the metrics, be reliable, give them the results that they want, by all means, they should be able to work from home. And so it's helped me in regards to additional real estate because it would be extremely expensive to keep finding locations. My 300 seat center was perfect, but we were almost busting out of it. And so by law, we were only allowed 50% of the people here. I chose 80%.
Hmm.
It's fine. People are working from home. Their numbers are great. It's not a problem. But Devin, I miss walking the roads. I miss breaking the bread with the people. I always believe that a painting is better than a print if something you can really see live. You can feel it and smell it and touch it. It's there. And when the people were at the center, obviously they were feeding off of the energy of their coworkers, reducing the attrition because they were making friends. And
Hmm.
it enabled me in real time to stand next to you, listen to this phone call, encourage you, make a suggestion, or just be in the moment with you. And so some of my essence was taken away from that. And I'm okay with that. That's just the way how things are. But do I see this industry growing? I do. But people are preferring more omni-channel non-voice support. Chat and email seems to be growing. But Devin, you and I spoke about this twice earlier. It's frustrating when you can't get a response in time. If there is no toll-free number to speak with somebody, it can only elevate until you pop. You either start yelling at people or you cancel your account. And so I still believe in the art of speech. It's important for people to speak with their clients for retention, upsell, referrals, and exit interview. And it's just an excellent way for somebody to share their ideas and to grow that relationship. So I can't stress that enough to my clients. to still encourage a verbal interpersonal communication with their clients.
No, and yeah, we spoke about that before, and I'm right there with you. I mean, I think there are ways that you can reduce costs, you can make some things simpler, you can automate it, and yet sometimes you have to look and say those aren't always the best options, and they don't always provide the best service. And if people
No.
are not liking to work with your customer service, they're not liking or feeling like they can never reach out to you, that can have those adverse effects. So I definitely echo the same sentiment. So
Remember how you mentioned earlier about attrition because you get that one bad phone call when they curse at you or yell at you? You're avoiding that, my man. The more that you can filter and buffer that sort of negative emotion, imagine once they do get somebody on the call, it's guns a-blazing, cursing and threatening. And so, yeah, no agent really wants to be on the receiving end of that sort of negative energy.
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. So well, now as we start to wrap towards the end of the episode, if I always have one question I like to ask at the end, so we'll jump to that now, which is, if you could go back to the early days of the business when it was just getting started and you could take one decision that you could make differently, what would that one decision be?
Just not to take it personal. I think the first time I experienced my first agent leaving me after investing so much time in them, it crushed me. But then the philosophy of me today, you tomorrow, I'm not still at the first job I had back in Philadelphia working on Delaware Avenue. No, we're not there anymore. And so people have stages and they can move forward. And this is what I do know. If I have fulfilled my obligation to them by respecting them, giving them stable employment and investing in them, the outcome is okay with me because I just don't know, Devin, what's happening in their personal lives. There could be something that's influencing their decision that they're not telling me about. Remember, I mentioned earlier about impulse control and maturity and all that stuff. That's the mature side. You really appreciate the handshake, the look in the eye, and the wishing well. And the ones that leave, it's not me, my man. It must be something on your end that you can't come see your boss and say goodbye because you know I'd be there with open arms. And, but I would tell myself to do it all over again, and it's okay because you're following your dream. It's a million and one shot. This should have never happened. And if it's Sisyphus, or I keep pushing that rock up the hill and it keeps coming back down, at least I got a shot at it. The worst thing you and I could ever be doing is sitting at home dreaming and not doing anything. And so I'm okay with that going back in time circle, my friend. I guess a lot of it just is the scarring and the experience and licking those wounds. That's the only sort of experience that I'd be passing back to my younger self.
I like it. I think that's definitely a great takeaway, and it makes perfect sense. So awesome. Well, now as we wrap up the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, connect with you, find out more?
Buy a first class plane ticket and come down and visit their buddy in Costa Rica. I got 1,000 suggestions, but I'm everywhere on the internet. You can find me, but the Facebook fan page is most important for me. I got 104,000 local Costa Ricans there. Your two previous episodes are there. This third one will be there as well. You got tons of fans, but it will give your audience an amazing perspective of the business process outsourcing in Central America. We are north of Panama, south of Nicaragua, the only democratic society in Central America, no standing army, 95% literacy rate, the best infrastructure. We're known for ecotourism. And it's one of those things where there is a special sauce to Costa Rica. We're known for the expression pura vida, which means pure life. So if you're ever going to add an accessory to a phone call, you might as well add that sort of amazing culture and mindset. And so, Devin, I can't thank you enough. You've been exceptionally generous with your time and resources, and you're also my buddy. So it's a lot of fun to put wind in your sails and to support your audience, and just once again to share these ideas with you.
Hey, definitely appreciate you coming on the podcast. Likewise, it's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all the listeners that are out there, help us to share all these amazing founding stories, and for other startups and small businesses to figure out how to found and grow their business. If you can help us by clicking share, subscribe, and leaving us a review, definitely helps so we can help more startups and small businesses. And on that note, if you ever need help with your business, with your patents, your trademarks, or anything else, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Richard, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you, Devin.